Oh, it's not that bad. Really, I worked on it. The first time I ever encountered a shark underwater, I didn't see it until it was about 5 feet away. And I was 27 years old and in pretty good physical condition, but the shock nearly gave me a heart attack. And I had actually been hoping to see a shark while diving for a long time, but I had expected to see one for the very first time at a much greater distance. One might say what felt like a safer distance to me. And one of the life lessons that I've learned from my 30 years as a scuba diver is that visibility matters. There are things in life that can do you real harm if you don't see them. And most of the time, this has nothing to do with your eyesight. When we talk about visibility, we can mean different things. On one hand, visibility can refer to our ability to see other things clearly at a distance or depth, like a shark. On the other hand, we can talk about our own visibility or how easily we can be seen by others. It might mean the prominence of an issue or business in the public consciousness. A company will try to increase its visibility in the marketplace through advertising, or maybe a congregation wants to raise its visibility in the community. The kind of visibility that I want to talk with you about this morning is our individual capacity to see clearly. How do we look at, experience, and understand the world around us? How do we view other people, especially those who, on the surface, seem different from us? And, most especially, are we able to really look closely and deeply at ourselves, recognizing our abilities, our biases, and our motivations? When it comes to seeing ourselves clearly, eyesight's not even necessary. Amen. Over my 30 years of scuba diving, I've been in water in which I could only see 6 feet in front of me. It can be hard to find what you're looking for, much less notice random things that you might want to examine closely or avoid. I've also made dives in water so clear and calm that nothing escapes my gaze. And friends, my life has been like that too. There have been times when I've anxiously groped my way forward, uncertain of what was going on around me, mostly because of my inability to see clearly what was going on inside me. There have also been times of great clarity, tranquility, and security. And I know today that how well I understand myself shapes my entire experience of life. Now, some people are terrified of the idea of diving 60 feet below the surface of the ocean, breathing compressed air through a hose. I don't understand why. No, I do. It can seem like a dangerous undertaking in a foreign element. Human beings are land mammals and don't belong underwater. I get that. But I remember that my body is almost 70% salt water. And I came to life in the saltwater ocean of my mother's womb. So the ocean doesn't seem foreign to me. Diving feels to me like a return to the ancient home of all earthly life. The ocean is already inside me. How we see ourselves in the world changes our whole experience of life. Now, some people see the earth itself as the source of potential personal wealth, which is to be exploited for self-interest. Others see the earth as the sacred host for an interdependent web of life. These different views produce wildly different attitudes. Now, in his groundbreaking 1836 essay, Nature, our Unitarian forebearer, Ralph Waldo Emerson, observed, "To speak truly, few adult persons can see nature. Most persons do not see the sun. At least they have a very superficial seeing." He goes on to make the case that seeing an object visually is entirely different from experiencing and understanding deeply the essence of the thing. There is a difference, he said, between inward and outward senses or seeing. Standing on the bare ground, Emerson wrote, surrounded by nature, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universe circulate through me. I am part or parcel of God. Emerson saw nature as neither an object nor an accident, but rather the manifestation not just of a divine design, but of divinity itself. We are a part of that sacred oneness, Emerson asserted, and those who fail to see and understand that are blind to ultimate reality. There's more to the world than meets the eye, and the same is certainly true for people. In my experience, you can look at another person and never really see who they are, which is always a complex, unique, individual human being embedded in a culture with private dreams and a personal history, family, and future. You know, too many people in this world look at other human beings and see a what, not a who. Immigrant, Asian, black, gay, Republican, Muslim. If we do not look past these whats about a person, then we will never truly see, understand, and appreciate that individual. Sometimes we can't even see what's right in front of us because of low visibility, like a diver in murky water. What limits our vision as individuals are the prejudices, the biases, and the fears that we have absorbed over a lifetime from our families, our community, and our society. There are plenty of people with 20/20 vision who are unable to really see the person in front of them as a full subject and unique human being. And everybody is susceptible to this. When we participate in a public protest in downtown Raleigh and the police show up, do we see in those officers sons and daughters doing their jobs? Do we see our fellow citizens serving our community? Do we see another human being temporarily occupying a public role, or do we make a reflexive, reactive judgment about their personhood without really knowing anything about them? Do we automatically assume the worst about them based on the color of their blue clothing, the way others prejudge some of us based on the color of our skin? We can all be limited by our own low visibility at times. And in the story that Catherine shared with the kids, the challenge there was, could the mother see her daughter as the whole person, and could the daughter see her mother as a whole person? And sometimes that's a challenge for us to look at our parents and understand them as human beings with the same flaws, fears, hopes, and dreams that we have. We see them in their roles. Can we see everybody in our lives as a complex subject and be in relationship with them on their terms, not on our imposed biases and preconceived notions. Noted American humorist Mark Twain observed, in all seriousness, "You cannot depend on your eyes when your imagination is out of focus." What is required of us at times as people of faith is a moral imagination that allows us to see the essence and wholeness of another person. We need to be able to see deeper into a person than just the clothing on their bodies or the color of their skin or their political identification or their gender identity. You know, if I meet a woman wearing a hijab, which is the traditional Muslim headscarf for women, if I fail to look with curiosity and interest beyond that piece of fabric to get to know the unique human individual in front of me, then there is something limiting my ability to see, which is the definition of low visibility. And what limits our ability to see others clearly and know them deeply is always, always inside us. The reading you heard earlier from Oedipus the King by Sophocles featured the wise old Tiresias, who was born blind, and he was a religious visionary who could see the truth that the fully sighted king could not. You know, truly wise individuals possess the understanding and insight to see deeply into the nature of things and people at all times. That's what wisdom is. That's why it's so hard to come by. King Oedipus has brought a curse down on his city through his actions, but he cannot see what he has done and will not listen to the counsel of blind Tiresias, which is why Tiresias tells him, "Perhaps you are a king, but I'll have my say. I'm blind. I say you see and still are blind appallingly." I look around the world today and I see a great many people who possess functioning eyes, but who are appallingly blind in their view of the world, other people, and most especially themselves. So how can we be blind to ourselves? Well, to see ourselves accurately, the first thing we have to do is acknowledge our social location, the place from which I engage the world. I am a straight, white, single man. It was expected that I would go to college as a child. I've had all sorts of privileges made available to me to the point that I can just take them for granted. That's part of my social location. I have to know that's the place from which I'm engaging the world. I have to be aware of myself. And I have to be able to look at how my past has shaped me. And I can do two things with that. I can count my blessings in life, not feel guilty about them, but just be grateful and have that gratitude be a positive underpinning to my worldview. Or maybe I feel entitled to all these things I have, and if other people want what I have, then maybe they're threatening what I've got, and maybe they shouldn't have them, and I need to defend my little space of the world, and I can use that worldview to generate all sorts of prejudices based on fear and misunderstanding. So how I understand myself is important. I have to figure out what my core values are. I need to examine those. You've heard me say in sermons before, that's why theology matters. Theology is what we say we believe about ultimate things. If we say we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, why? Why do we believe that? And if we do believe that, how does that call us to be in the world? And how we are being in the world is our religious ethics. And when we know our values and we understand our theology and we try and live by it, when we find out that our actions don't line up with what we say we believe, we need to do one of two things. We need to change our theology because clearly we don't believe that, or we need to change our behavior because we're not living up to our faith. And the other thing that's so important for us to understand as individuals is what is motivating us. And this requires us to be able to recognize and read accurately our emotional landscape. Do we recognize when we're fearful? Do we recognize when and why we're angry or resentful? Can we see and admit to ourselves when we're feeling jealous or greedy or prideful or guilty, and get at the source of those feelings, those unhealthy, unhelpful emotions, and begin to unpack and undo those and free ourselves from those negative thought patterns? These litany of unhealthy and unhelpful emotions, natural though they may be, these, along with the biases and prejudices, are the things that can cause real harm in life if you don't see them lurking inside you, if I don't see them lurking inside me. And we also have to take a good hard look at what our motivations are. Now, I was talking with someone the other day, we were talking about doing good works in the world. Why am I doing good things? If I'm going to go feed somebody at the food pantry, why am I doing that? Am I doing that because I feel guilty about something and I hope that I will atone for my past bad behavior? I've probably done some things for that reason in the past. Am I doing it because I want to get credit and receive praise for being a good person? I think I've probably done some things for that reason too. Do I do it sometimes to make other people look bad and make them feel guilty? Maybe. Do I do it to feel better about myself or feel good about myself? That's not a bad reason to do something. Or do I do it because I cannot do otherwise and be true to myself? These are all different motivations for doing something, which is externally a good thing. Are we able to read ourselves clearly and understand what motivates us in any given situation? That's clarity of internal vision and self-understanding. When we lose that clarity, it can be really dangerous. I've done a little diving on sunken wrecks in my life, and what happens in warm salt water when a ship sinks, it begins to deteriorate over time. And it develops a layer of silt inside the ship, and sometimes it can get pretty thick. I've been in ships where they've been 4-6 inches of silt. And it's so incredibly fine, like a powder underwater. And if you're swimming through a narrow passageway inside a ship, and if you're not careful, if you touch something, if you brush against something, if you knock something over, or if you kick it with your fins, you can stir up all this sediment, and it becomes what's known in diving as a brownout. It's so thick, so dense, you can't see anything. You literally can't see which way is up, which is bad news for a diver, because when you're disoriented, you always know where the surface is because you can follow your bubbles. But if you can't see your bubbles, you're in big trouble. You are completely without bearing. That's a dangerous place to be. It's a dangerous place to be in life as individuals if we lose our bearings, if we can no longer see clearly our values that are holding us fast, if we can no longer see what's most important to us, and if we can no longer find a way out of whatever dangerous place our unhealthy thinking has gotten us, individually or collectively. Noted psychologist Carl Jung famously said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." It's never too late to start the process of improving our inward vision and expanding our understanding, individually and collectively, communities, congregations, nations. And that's where I think for us as people of faith, a spiritual practice is so critically important, because that's exactly what mindfulness meditation teaches us to do, which is to calm our minds so that we can drain down the energy of our unhealthy thoughts and begin to see clearly our motivations and appreciate our values and make wise choices in life that engage others from a place of peace, compassion, and kindness. So both underwater and in life, visibility matters. How we understand our place in the world, how we view the people we encounter, how we value the ones we love, and how deeply we're able to examine and understand ourselves makes a real difference. At this point in my life, I like diving in clear, warm water in which I can see over great distances and into the blue depths of the wondrous, mysterious ocean. And I want to be a man who is both open to knowing other beings beyond superficial first impressions and unafraid to look every bit as deeply into myself. So may it ever be. Please